Hello and welcome into the Broncos Europe podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since we graced your screens or your ears if you're listening in the car for a variety of reasons. You know, we've had a bit of illness, we've been very busy with our own work schedules, but we're back tonight. It's a Thursday night. We're back on the show, and I'm joined once again by the trusty co-host, Mr. Kieron Moralee. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, better than it was 2 weeks ago, Mark, when I was to blame for us not getting a pod out because illness swept through and wiped us out. And then I think the week after, it travelled south a bit and got you, didn't it?
It did. You know, I'm delighted to say we're both back to full fitness and here today to discuss an interesting topic. We've probably gone a little bit early with it, but we were scrambling around trying to find something to talk about today. And I think we've landed on an interesting one anyway to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to look at a really, really, really early 53-man roster, aren't we, and what it might shape up to be. And I think it's a good time to do it, Mark, because, you know, we're heading into training camp in the next couple of weeks, and that's where a lot of this, you know, looking at best laid plans and how it may look now, we know that what we're going to discuss tonight is going to be turned on its head. The Broncos are renowned for an odd undrafted free agent sneaking in and things like that. So, you know, there's some camp battles to come in some positions. There's some, you know, rookies and undrafted free agents that might sneak in through training camp. So, yeah, we'll just have an early look, and then it'd be nice to see how it actually compares in a few weeks' time as we get close to the season starting, I suppose.
Yeah, I think though, you know, we're going to discuss this and we're going to go through our picks, and obviously people will disagree, people will agree with some of our picks, but I think this is, I don't know what your thoughts on this are, Kieron. I think this is one of the easiest 53-man rosters that we will pick for the Broncos, if that makes sense. There are a lot of locks there. There's not that many spaces on the roster to fill for these, unfortunately, for these undrafted free agents and for the rookies. There's not many spots up for grabs, are there?
Yeah, I think the difficulty is going to be which position group you give way to for another one, and keeping that strength in. And you're right. I think there's not at the moment. There's not a lot of gap for those rookies or undrafted free agents, like you said. But I think even when you're looking at the depth mark within a position group, some of the players that we're looking at the minute, you could toss a coin. And is it going to come down to financial aspects? Is it going to, you know, the special team contribution? It's going to be little things. Could just be a camp battle. You know, it could just be between two of you go and grab it. And it's going to be an interesting one. And like I say, I think it looks easy now. I think there'll be a lot of what we pick changes, not massive numbers, but I think there'll be a good percentage of it where, you know, those coin tosses unravel in camp, and what we picked is probably flipped on its head a little bit. But it's a nice strong roster, isn't it? That's the benefit of this.
Yeah, I fully agree there. So I'll load up the document we've got. It's a little Google sheet for you all. So it's nothing special, but it'll do the job for tonight. So I'll load it up and I'll share it all. Shall we start with the easiest positions on the roster, because there's not many actually on the signed onto the squad at the moment. Shall we start with the special teams?
Yeah, I think you said we haven't got a lot. Will Lutter's locked in. Jeremy Crawford, kind of weird to see him and his glorious mustache. We've talked about this a lot. And then Mitch Fabroni, he's currently injured, I believe, but he's going to be our starting long snapper. So I think you're right. That special teams, it's not a lot there. It is what it is.
I think the interesting one there, obviously Mitchell Fabroni, like I said, he's injured. Let me just find where we're going here. So we have positions taken. We will just do that. So we've got 3 out of 53. Sorry, we're done. Just keep a running track.
Yeah.
Okay. So Will Lutz, the kicker there. He's been a kicker last season. He had a very good season. Obviously, probably the biggest disappointment of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs when they blocked the field goal, which would have given us the win. But he's definitely going to be the kicker moving forward. Jeremy Crawford, our guy, Jeremy Crawford, who we're all excited to see play over here. We're big Jeremy Crawford fans. Hopefully he will make the 53. He's the only punter there at the moment. They might bring someone in, obviously, to give him a bit of competition. But looks like early days he's going to take the role. So we move back onto offense then.
Yeah.
We'll start here and we'll move in. Where do you want to start?
Let's just go right to left, shall we? Looking at that, we'll start with quarterbacks and move through it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it.
for me here, do the Broncos go for 3 quarterbacks on the actual roster, or do we stick with the 2 and stash one on the practice squad?
I think, and little look behind the curtain, Mark. I've had a little look at this prior to us doing this podcast tonight. I was thinking, where would I give and take? And I think at the minute, this is where we give and potentially take 2, and that's purely because one, I don't think there's too much of a risk of Sam Ehlinger being picked up by anybody else. I think that backup quarterback depth throughout the league, it's much of a muchness sort of thing. Quite like Sam Ehlinger though, but I think if you put him practice squad, he would get the practice squad and he would sit there, and that's purely. I do like the fact that you can put 3 on and 1 doesn't count against and all that on game day now, and you can as we had with Zach Wilson last year. But I just on my little brief run through, I need that spot somewhere else. So for me, it's 2 at the minute, and the risk of having 2 quarterbacks injured and needing 3 in a game. It's very rare, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm with you here. There's 2 standouts there. Bo Nix is obviously your starter going forward. He's going to be the starter for a long time. He's hopefully that franchise quarterback. Jarrett Stidham did well enough last year. He's got a good relationship with Bo Nix to be that backup, and those 2 thrive off being in the room together. Sam Ehlinger, let's hope he gets to the practice squad. Apparently, he's a very decent player to have on the roster. But yeah, we're gonna go with 2.
I think that veteran presence from Stidham, and that's the only reason I've picked him over. I'm not saying he's old by any means, but QB. Oh no,
we've got to put Jarrett Stidham behind. I can't have him above him.
No, definitely not. But I think it's just as we said last year, and that's why Stidham was QB2 and Wilson didn't really get a look, and there's just that veteran presence there, isn't there, and that steadiness that you get from Jarrett Stidham. So definitely that's the 2 for me.
Yeah. And interesting. So we've got 2 on the roster there. We'll do a little tally above. Let's make it all look nice as well. Dig into this. So we've gone with 2 quarterbacks. Running back, the running back room. Very interesting room. Obviously, you've got J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, the rookie coming in. Tyler Beatty had an all right year. The speedster, Jaleel McLaughlin. Last year's rookie, Audric Estime, the bowling ball, as we call him. And obviously, Blake Watson there hanging around. Where'd you see this room going? Yeah,
and there's one, and I don't know if you've got it. Have you got them? Oh, you've got fullback and tight ends and such, and that's the bit that factors into me. The bit this is one of the position groups where I think I need the extra pick mark, and it's top 2 are locked in. We brought in J.K. Dobbins, we brought in R.J. Harvey, but for me, that changes the requirements of the room. Before J.K. Dobbins, I think it's easy locking in R.J. Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, and potentially another just for But now, and I think at that point we might have run with 3 and put 2, tried Blake Watson and Tyler Beatty to the practice squad.
Yeah.
Now it changes for me, and I think R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins are quite similar size, build. What you're going to get, and they're going to probably split those carries a fair bit. The then change of pace guy, I would have put Estime probably as running back 3 prior to, maybe he's even running back 2 prior to the J.K. Dobbins pickup. But now he drops down to running back 4 because I think Jaleel McLaughlin comes in as that change of pace, that speed guy, and it just offers something different. Do I want to then risk Audric Estime, getting him to the practice squad or anything like that? You draft pick last year, 5th round. It's probably me just being tight again. I don't want to give up draft capital and see a pick wasted. But this is where I'm tempted to take 4, where I probably would have been more likely to take 3 had we not picked up.
Yeah, Dobbins. I think I'm with you. I in my little mock I did just earlier today, I took 4 of these players. The sign of J.K. Dobbins changed it a little bit. Just a quick evening to Adam. He's joined us on the chat, so it's nice for you to join us. Chime in when you can, buddy. But we'll try and read out some of your stuff. But yeah, J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, they are the locks for me.
Yeah.
And then I think it's way too early to give up on a talent like Audric Estime. There's a reason they drafted him. He had his struggles last season, but that was in a room that didn't really have an identity, if that makes sense. I feel like Aldrich Estimé will have a defined role this season. And because of that, because he'll come on later downs, probably third down, something like that, his production should go up. Hopefully he won't have the ball handling issues he had last year. As a rookie, that's not what you want to see. And then I don't see Tyler Beatty making the squad. I don't see Jaleel McLaughlin making it. He struggled big time last year. I put Blake Watson in there. He's got a bit more.
Right, wow.
He's got a bit more 3 down about him. For me, he showed that he can do it. I know, controversial decision, but that's who I had going into.
Yeah, see, I think as well for me, if you're dropping Jaleel McLaughlin out, our speedy, then I like the little bit of show we saw from Tyler back end as well. So, and I know Blake Watson, he hasn't had much of a chance. I think this is going to be, and this is one of the coin tossers talking about. I think there's probably not a lot splitting Tyler Beatty and Blake Watson. I think the flip of a coin scenario, that one. Yeah. I would have picked the 4. I would have put Jaleel in there just as that change of pace guy. But
let's come back to it. We both agree that we need 4, don't we? So RJ Harvey,
change, couldn't it?
Exactly. We might find a space later on. Do we think any of these will make the practice squad? I think you could sneak Tyler Beatty on there. Jaleel McLaughlin, I think, might get snapped up by someone. And Blake Watson, I think you could sneak him on there as well, which obviously goes against what I said. But I think we've got 3 at the moment locked in. But it doesn't say we can't come back and add that 4th.
No.
And we'll move on over to wide receivers. It's an interesting room. I think it's one of the rooms that is actually fairly solid. And I don't see much change. I don't see many open spots there. So I'll take you through who I would put on straight away, and then we'll talk through.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got Courtland Sutton. He's the big guy outside main, wide receiver number 1. You've got Pat Bryant coming in, rookie, 3rd round pick. He's going to make the roster. He's a lock. Troy Franklin showed enough to show there's something deep in there talent wise. He just needs to connect on a few of those deep balls. He's your speedster. He's your deep ball threat. Marvin Mims, your gadget player, isn't he? He's definitely going to make the squad. He's got return ability. He had a cracking end to the season with 2 multiple touchdown games in a row. You've got Devon Bailey, so Mr. Reliable. He could be your Courtland Sutton replacement one day. And then you've also got where is he on my list?
Mr. Sherfield.
Mr. Sherfield as your special teams because of his special teams ability, which obviously is an underrated sort of stat to have and a skill set to have. So I think they are your 6 going into the roster.
100% agree, Matt. And again, you could look at it now and go, well, is Trent Sherfield going to play a lot on the offense? Is he just going to be special teams? Could you pick up a 7th? But again, for me at the minute, I would rather put that extra player in that running back room where J.K. Dobbins, there's an injury there. We're not too far away from, potential. Hopefully it never comes and we get the best and such. But we've now got a receiving tight end room, which again takes away that need for a 7th in the wide receiver room for me. So I agree wholeheartedly with the 6 you've mentioned. I don't think we take any more. I think there's going to be some disappointment there because I think there's some good players that are highly thought of, and we had like a couple last year, didn't we? In A.T. Perry and Bandy. I think they're quite well liked in the building and such, and then we've picked up a couple more sort of undrafted free agents there this year. So
like you said there, Michael Bandy you can get him onto the practice squad. I don't know much about Keen Davis and Courtney Jackson, but I think they're undrafted free agents there to push those practice squad. They're probably trying to earn a practice squad spot, along with Jawan Newton, I'm guessing is how you pronounce it. A.T. Perry is probably will be the one who's disappointed. He's a Sean Payton guy, isn't he? He's a big target, so you never know. Sean Payton he's going to make some surprises, isn't he? He could stick with his guy, A.T. Perry, and whack him on the roster. But I see us going with 6.
Agreed. Fully agree on that one.
Gives us 6, 9 added on, so that gives 14 we have done already. 9, 10, 14. Good maths. And we'll move on. I think, like I said, I don't think there's anything else really to discuss there. I'm happy with those ones. We both said the same ones, but we'll move on to tight ends and fullback. I put Michael Burton in here because Nate Atkins also could be counted as a fullback. So I just thought it'd be an interesting conversation there.
Yeah, I mean, and before we jump into this one, the Michael Burton, Nate Atkins, Michael Burton is where we are potentially for me is that fullback. I think he offers that. I know Nate Atkins did line up there a few times, but again, that type of what you get from a fullback. If we're looking at the running back room as it is now, as we've got the three in there that we're seeing is a lock.
Who's the lock?
Sorry, in your running back room at the minute.
I misheard you.
RJ Harvey, we've got JK, and we've got Estime in there at the moment.
Yeah.
But where's the difference? Where's that change of pace guy? And that was for me for why Jaleel I was putting in as that fourth, because if we bring in Michael Burton along for the ride as well, you've got four again, not similar, but they're all powerful backs, aren't they? I know RJ Harvey's got that agility and speed, and he's got that patience at the line to look for a gap and get through. But the short, stocky running backs, they're gonna get some yards after contact. They're gonna plow through a little bit, and that was a bit going back to not to say to change the running back room at the minute. I think in the tight ends fullback room, for me, Michael Burton gets in. I also think Nate Atkins gets in.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the pair of them get through there. But Nate Atkins is versatile, like we said before. He can play that tight end. He can play that fullback role. I think Sean Payton loves his versatile players. If you can get multiple positions out of them and he plays a good level of them, I think that's it's a must-have for Sean Payton. Which leaves probably 3 spots. You probably fight 3 tight end spots. Evan Engram is a lock. He's your big sign-in. He's your exciting joker player. He's going to be your receiving tight end. I actually think Adam Troutman is a lock as your blocking tight end, which leaves one of Lucas Krull, Caleb Lohner, and Caden Prieskorn.
And I think we know who it's going to be. And again, we listen to podcasts elsewhere. We look at the media. This pick, the Caleb Lohner pick, has been one that's got a little bit of excitement about what it can be, and I think that's got the league looking, hasn't it? Is to, if the Broncos try to get him to the practice squad, does he get there? Because he's a bit of a wild card, a bit of a freak of nature of sort of size of that position, whereas the others, Lucas Krull.
He showed something last year, didn't he?
Yeah, and
he could be an exciting player, but. That room this year was poor. I think we needed more excitement. We needed more production. That Caleb Lohner pick, I know it was 7th round, but his freak size, it does enough to make the roster. You're not going to want to mark him or try and defend against him, are you? I don't think he makes the practice squad either.
No, and that's a bit for me. Is that's the risk. We've invested a draft pick in him. Why would you risk it when the others we think will get there? And like you said, it's a free spot because the room is very good and versatile. We've talked about this in numerous podcasts this year already about what we're going to get from Evan Engram as a receiving, wide receiver, that joker as he's been labelled. But we've got blockers. We've got Nate Atkins chipped in with a few touchdowns towards the end, didn't he? I think so. We've got a bit of versatility there now. Where
I think that's an underrated room, actually. If you think, Evan Engram, he makes that room a lot higher higher floor. Sorry, Adam Troutman is one of the better blocking tight ends in the league, and Michael Burton is one of the better fullbacks. He catches as well. He's not a bad receiver out of the backfield. But yeah, Caleb Lohner is he's the weird joker position in there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think we're all excited to see him play though.
Yeah, and like you say, I think it's a free spot because not a free spot, it's a spot in the roster, but we can put that in, and we're not thinking, are we going to get that production from it, and are we cutting our nose off to spite our face, so to speak, and weakening that room? I think no, it's strong enough with the 3 we've got in there outside of him. Let him come in there, and let's see what we can get from him through the year. So I think it's shaping up quite canny at the minute. Looking good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think those skill positions are all pretty much locked in there. We've got one potential room in the running back room there, but we're gonna move to the trenches. The first of the trenches, we're gonna fill the offensive line. How many are you looking at here?
Let me count on my. Let's don't look at that. Yeah.
Go through the locks. Let's go through the locks, and we'll slot them in. So Garrett Bowles is a lock.
Yeah. The line from last year is the line for me.
So Michael Glinchey, right tackle, he'll be in. You've got Ben Powers.
Yeah.
You've got Quinn Miners, Pro Bowl guard. You don't miss him.
And then we've got our centre, Luke Wattenberg,
who makes the roster. Yeah. Which leaves us with, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 spots, 10 players battling for maybe what? 4
for me. It's 4 for me. I think it's 9. 4. And this is one of the rooms where I'm going, oh, who?
It's good backups, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's depth. And I think I'll list the 4 that I think.
Another lock here for me.
There's 3 I'm more certain of than others. I think Peart's in.
Yeah.
And who have I got next? Who I'm looking at my list and I'm still I'm doubting myself now, Mark. That's why I'm taking my time.
I've got 3. I've got Peart. I've got Forsyth, and I've got Crum.
Yeah, I mean they love Crum, don't they? That's the thing, and I think he's on my list. He's in my 4. Forsyth is one where I've got him sort of split at the minute, going, this is very much a flip of a coin, and it's just because.
So you're Pearce and your Crum are your backup tackles, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then you're looking for a backup centre/guard, really, and a backup guard,
which is your backup centre/guard, isn't it? It's Forsyth or Gargiulo, and then.
Yeah.
Another is a Palczewski. We've got Throckmorton, we've got Claire Webb and such now, haven't we? So I think
it could be the undrafted free agent that makes it. I had him on my list as that guy. He's an exciting talent. Obviously, he had a few issues in college. Nothing to do with football, but PR wise. But that's all sorted out. Apparently, I think he's got some high upside. But I think those 2. Gargiulo and Forsyth are battling it out.
Yeah,
like I said.
And if it's that tight, is this where it comes a business decision? Do you go? I mean, don't get us wrong. Football comes first, and you're looking who's got the versatility to do both is what we're looking for, really. And we want somebody who can slot in that centre because for that cover, but also play that guard.
You've got to remember that Miners can play centre as well. I mean, you don't
really want to move that though. You don't want that disruption.
He's a Pro Bowl level guard. But you can play there.
But does it come down to the fact that Forsyth was a 7th round pick in 2023, Gargiulo was a 7th round pick last year, and you've got an extra year on a rookie contract there with Gargiulo? Does it come down to the numbers? If it's that tight. But at the minute on my list, I had Gargiulo, but Forsyth was a /Forsyth, but Gargiulo was first for me just because of that.
Forsyth is always interesting because he was Bo Nix's centre, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he was always the interesting player. They had that rapport. He was battling out in camp. Wattenberg won that battle.
And look, it's another year on. We don't know. We hear glimpses of who's training with who in the close seasons and such. Yeah. But is that a relationship that has continued to develop or redevelop over last year and behind the scenes? And now it could, and it could be little things like that to swing it. But that there for me is going to be a camp battle that can go either way. So we've got Peart in there, we've got Crum, we've got Gargiulo now over.
I think I would happily go with Webb as your 9th.
I would pick.
Would you go
Palczewski? I would go just again because there's a bit of versatility there. I think he can, he can play a title, play a guard. I think, but and is there more chance of Webb getting to that practice squad and
true. Yeah, that's true. Think about who can get onto that practice squad. So
you're always looking at that, aren't you, with your undrafted free agents? As they're there. We've got them. Obviously, a lot can happen through camp and through pre-season, and then injuries come in, and other teams might be sniffing around then, and it becomes a bit more difficult. But yeah, I mean, look at that though. That's strong depth again, isn't it? It's starting.
Yeah. I'm happy. You'd be happy with that as your offensive line group, with the couple of them on the practice squad. But overall, that offense there, you'd be happy. You know, we were looking for skill positions last year. You went out and you got Evan Engram. You went out and got Pat Bryant. You went out and got RJ Harvey, Caleb Lohner. You're happy with what's gone on there.
Yeah. Now, and the good thing with this is when I had my little run through and I was thinking, who would I have? I had an unevenness between offense and defense.
Yeah.
And I had an extra offense player in there. I was running it, I think it was 26 to 24, which made it difficult when I got the secondary of the defense because I was like, right, which room's missing out here? Because I took that extra running back. I had the 4 in there because I didn't want to lose Estimate, but I thought we needed that change of pace guy.
It's a tricky one to cut one of those guys. I mean, you're going to get a couple on the practice squad anyway. It doesn't mean we can't come back and add that 4th running back in.
No. But at the minute, I'm comfortable with that, and I think it's, again, like you say, the 2 running backs that we're more confident we'll get to the practice squad.
Yeah.
We'll offer that bit change of pace and such as well anyway. Do you know what I mean? So should be called up.
We'll jump on over then. We've sorted offense for now. And we'll jump on over to defense. Here's our players available. We've got cornerback, safeties, inside linebackers, outside linebackers, and defensive line. It's the way I just categorise them all. I could have done individual positions, but we'll just stick with this. Shall we start with cornerbacks again?
Yeah. How many were you taking?
5.
Yeah, me too. But this was my light room, I think.
Yeah, but only because your Jardé Barron can play safety. Yeah, he's versatile. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm just thinking now, is it this room, and I'll not jump ahead too much, or my inside linebacker? Except if we keep the offense as it is, Mark, we've got an extra pick here for me, from what I've had a look at. And it's either, looking at it, I think it's cornerback or inside linebacker. And maybe we'll pick the 5 and then come back to each of them rooms and see, or as we get to inside linebacker.
Let's put reigning defensive player of the year where he needs to be, because we're not
top of the list. Yeah,
he's in. You've got your first round draft pick. He is a lock, Jardé Barron. He's an absolute lock. Where is he? Cornerback 2, Riley Moss.
Yeah,
you had him. Hopefully he bounces back to early season version of him. I hope the camera went flying nearly. Hopefully he bounces back. He had a rough end to the year after coming back from his injury, but he showed more than enough to be your second outside corner opposite PS2. So there's your starting 3. Pat Surtain, Jardé Barron, and Riley Moss. Where you go next? For me, I think, sorry to butt in again, is between Damari Mathis and Jaquan McMillan.
Yeah.
I feel like you're only getting 1.
Yeah, and I think my gut feeling, although sort of another nickelback position, is Jaquan. I just don't think Damari Mathis has been the best since his, I think we probably saw some of his best stuff on his rookie year, and it's kind of a little bit, declined since then. Still, good football player and such like that. But if you're picking between the 2,
I went the same, and I just think Damari Mathis is good trade bait. I think we will trade him before the season or the trade deadline. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, well, it's a type of player. It's a cut, isn't it? He's not gonna. Yeah. It's. I agree. It's a good play. It's the depth again. The fact we're discussing that, and this is one of the reasons why that's the room I'm toyed with. If I can put an.
Is there any way they keep both?
Well, I'm just looking at it now, and again, I'm not going into the numbers and such, Mark. But I've got an extra pick now on this defense, an extra roster spot, and the 6 for me. Sorry, the 5 for me. The 2 that you haven't put on there now.
Chris Abrams, he was a lot for me, really. He's a cracking special teams player. He really showed up at the end of the year when he got his chance. I thought he was brilliant. He's got high upside. He's on, his contract's a great deal for us. I'd be delighted to get him back on the roster.
And I was just looking. I said the other room's the inside linebacker room. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
At the minute I could use that extra pick and put Damari Mathis in. But actually, as well, I'm just looking to the right hand side of that that defensive your columns there on your D line, and we know there's some contracts expiring. You know, if, not jumping ahead too far, but we're probably looking at taking 6 D linemen, something like that. Do you take an extra one because you know that the ones that we've got, the first 6 are going to be your win now more, but if there's some contracts expiring there, big money, you take some of the other, do you take an extra one in that room just to future proof a little bit? Because again, you're talking to players that aren't gonna, they're not going, not going to make practice squad. They're going to be snapped up, so I've said, cornerback's one of the rooms, but actually there might be more pressing needs. So I think we leave it at 5, but keep Damari Mathis in the back of our minds and see where this last pick comes out. But as we discuss it, it's a tight one though.
So we're saying, Matt, I'm going to get rid of the players that. Mario Goodrich, he's just been brought in. I can't see him making the roster. He could be a practice squad guy. I don't really know much about him, but
no.
Quinton Newsom, practice squad guy. Be quite happy to get him back. Like he showed signs in limited snaps. Joshua Pickett, not going to lie, did not know he was on the roster. Reese Kelly, and I've heard of him. Practice squad potential, but not everyone can make the practice squad. There's going to be some players who will lose their NFL careers. He could be one of them. Jaden Robinson, do you know much about him?
No, again, I think it's just one of them, isn't it? There, brought in another undrafted free agent. And,
so these are all going. We're quite happy with the line. Right, well, we'll move on to safeties. We've got 2 locks, maybe 3 locks.
Yeah.
These 2 are locks. We've got Talanoa Hufanga, the big free agent signing, and Brandon Jones are your starting safeties. You're solid 2 there. How many did you have?
4.
Okay. Name the other 2.
Who've got in? Sorry,
we've got Talanoa Hufanga and Brandon Jones.
Yeah. At the minute, I have, and again, it is a brought in Sam Franklin Jr. I mean, that's one that he's gonna be in the conversation because they spent money. Look at the names in that list. I mean, there's a good battle there, Mark. And this is the thing. And
it's going to be a good camp battle, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think at the moment, for what I've got, and I'm just sense checking my own list again. I like PJ Locke. I think he was at times, he was a little bit of a liability. He missed a lot of tackles and such last year, but as a backup, I feel a lot more confident than when he's thrust into it.
And he made my list as well. So,
and then I think the next one for me is probably JL Skinner. And again, it's just because he offers a bit on special teams. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
There, but it's harsh on Sam Franklin Jr. Where I think, and that's one where I think obviously did we pay? How much did we pay Sam Franklin Jr.?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let's just bring up his Sam Franklin Jr. contracts.
And I think that's a camp battle there. Obviously Turner Yell was out with a bad injury.
So he earned a base salary of $1.1 million and a signing bonus of $160,000.
So it's not massive money if he bites the dust. So, but yeah, I think like you say, Turner Yell, bit of an injury. Will he bounce back? Mm-hmm. Kieron Smith, it's another name in there that's to battle it out. Devon Key struggled a little bit at times, but I think there's a good camp battle with those remaining and enough to put pressure on potentially PJ Locke and JL Skinner as well.
Yeah, I would leave these 2 on the board in case we have room. I think Sam Franklin, Pips, Delaire, Turner Yell.
It's just a special team stuff again, isn't it? But we are shaping up a decent roster with some good special team depth again, isn't we? Some good. Bang me knee.
It's getting to it. It's the room now inside linebackers. Here's the struggle for me.
Yeah, and this is
I'll put
probably
Drew.
the one.
It's not Drew. We'll put Dre in. Dre's locked.
And Singleton for me, put him in.
Interesting. Okay.
I think this is one I talked about earlier when we're talking, earlier podcast when we're talking about the defensive room
I think he is
strength.
locked. You are right.
And I said that potentially Alex Singleton was one of the players that we might move on from in a close season, and that was purely because of what we might have brought in. With looking at age, looking at contracts, looking at the depth of things coming through. But as it stands now, with that room, he's the veteran presence. I'm not saying we've not got anything better as in he's a bad player, because I really rate that first year when he come. For an older veteran player, he was so fun to watch. And I think that that with Dre Greenlaw alongside him, it's a strong starting room there. The bit for me, I think the next one. Where's my list gone?
For me,
comes
next.
Yeah.
He showed enough. He could be a starter if Singleton went down again. I think he's hard hitting. He's good on the blitz. He wasn't out of this world amazing, but he was a competent starter for me, and I never felt majorly worried when he was playing.
No. So I had 4 in this room, and this is probably the room where I'm more inclined to leave Damari Mathis out and take an extra one, because I think Lavelle Bailey as an undrafted free agent come in, but again contributing on special teams and such like that, and he's just what you're getting for value there is brilliant. The Drew Sanders pick is the more intriguing one. He doesn't make a practice squad. Lavelle Bailey might, but I think I'd like Lavelle Bailey on the squad. Drew Sanders doesn't get it. But for me, I think again, we talked about in that previous one when we're breaking down the room, the strengths of the rooms and such. For me, sympathise with Drew Sanders a little bit, because we've not settled him in that position, did we? We moved him from inside linebacker to edge, back to inside linebacker. And it's just give him a run at a position and let him develop in that position.
Well, he said that he's going to be an inside linebacker now, hasn't he? So
yeah, but if we had to cut him, or try to put him on the practice squad and get swept up, or whatever happens, without that chance, for me, I think that's why I sympathise. I think it's a little bit unfair. I think fair enough if he's inside linebacker this year and Lavelle Bailey and others, he's not making that progression, then so be it. But it's minimal risk, isn't it? High reward at the moment, and
I'm happy with
that. Yeah,
I think we've got a good room there. It's got depth. It's got young players who want to prove something.
And injury cover for Dre Greenlaw, Alex Singleton. You never know what you're going to get there. Exactly. So there's a bit cover without risking losing one of those.
I need to update that. So we're up to 42, which gives us 11 spots over outside linebackers, defensive line, and potentially another running back if we wanted to go there. So we'll move on to outside linebackers. Well, obviously, Nick Benito, he is in.
Yeah.
Stop me if I'm wrong on any of these. Jonathan Cooper, where you're starting to. You're very delighted there. Jonah Ellis showed some high upside last year. He looked amazing, to be honest. But he was very, very good. Where is he? Dondre Tillman.
Yeah, in block for me.
Yeah, and then there was room for one more, which is your draft pick, Quay Robinson.
Yeah, 100%, and that's exactly what I admit, and I don't think there's any arguing with that. And I think
that is an exciting room,
Yeah.
Oh God!
And like you say, that Robinson is that sneaky good, strength and depth in there. Yeah. But you're right. The other two, sat behind Coop and Benito, 2 rookie years that were.
Dondre Tillman had an immense year last year for the snaps he got. He was disruptive on that line. It's just a shame he can't get more snaps because Benito and Cooper were just.
Yeah, I think I've got his stats here actually. Let's have a look. Dondre Tillman. So, yeah, I mean, a third of the snaps to Nick Benito, but nearly just under half the tackles for loss he had. About right on proportion for sacks. Tackles. Same tackles. About a third. Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, given the snaps, his stats were probably not too far off. If you scale them up. The only bit where Nick Benito shot away from him is QB hits. He's just that speed. But again, we talked about that in the presence of Zach Allen and how that helps him get those numbers and such. But yeah, Jonah Ellis again. I mean, 31 tackles,
what a
6
player he
QB
was.
hits, 5 sacks. I mean, him and Dondre Tillman between them 5 sacks each, considering they're getting backup.
Backup snaps. They're
backup
coming in
snaps.
when Benito and Cooper need a break. Can you imagine being an offensive line thinking, right, we've got rid of Benito for a snap. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Jonah Ellis is here.
Yeah. No, it is very exciting. And then, like you say, we've just added another weapon into there who's got the time to sit and develop if we need to, because that room's stacked, isn't it?
And he'll get his opportunity this year with some limited snaps, but hopefully he can show what he's all about. Which leaves us potentially 6 spots on this defensive line.
And for me, I have got 6. I've got another toss of the coin on the 6th one, I think.
Give me your locks, first of all. I will stop you.
Zach Allen.
Zach Allen, welcome to the roster. Yeah.
GFM.
Yep.
DJ Jones.
Yep.
Malcolm Roach.
Yep.
Savion Jones. And then we're in trouble. And this is where this 3, I mean, really, Christian Williams and Jordan Miller, they're not getting a look in purely because of the depth there. I think Uwazurike is an intriguing one. I think he's a good, and I think he could be the one that sneaks in for me. I think, Matt Hennington, nothing wrong. I think Jordan Jack, all 3 players, put any of them in as the 6th player and I'm happy. But which one excites me the most? Probably Uwazurike.
Yeah, I think I agree. I just like his name as well, which always helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan Jackson had a great year last year. So he'd be disappointed to move out. Can you sneak him onto the practice squad? Potentially.
Probably not for me. I think, like you say, he was steady.
Go on.
No, I was saying he was steady last year, like you say, and I think he's depth to somebody. The fact that we're sat here discussing does he slot in and comfortably slot in, is that depth in our D line, then he will be good depth for somebody.
It's a toss-up between, for me, Jackson and Uwazurike. I think Henderson, he's a nice piece to have, but I can't see him. I think the other 2 are better. Jordan Jackson actually had the better year last year. Uwazurike didn't play much.
No.
So it's a toss-up between the 2 of them. I think you're right. I don't think they get to the practice squad.
No.
So and one of them.
It's like you say, it's a toss of coin. I think it's a little bit harsh on Henningsen, but again, he sat on the practice squad a bit last year, didn't he? I think so there's a chance that happens again. Jordan Jackson, maybe he's less so, but I think Uwazurike definitely not, and I think that's why I put him in. I think he's just excited. That's the player that, because we haven't seen him as much either. That's the one where I'm intrigued. I want to see what a fully fit and raring to go player he is. How he can contribute.
You're losing a hell of a player in Jordan Jackson.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like you say, this is where we'll come back and revisit this in like 2 months' time and go, yeah,
wow,
nowhere near, because he could easily be in there.
So that's our roster. We've got 53. Obviously, we've left a few players here. We've got we've only got 3 running backs on the 53. I think your wide receivers are set. Your tight ends are set. Potential Caleb Lona. You potentially try and get him onto the practice squad if you want to squeeze him on there, but
I think it's too much of a gamble, that one.
You don't want to lose him in that way. Is there anywhere that you think you could lose a player and put one of these running backs, called Damari Mathis or Sam Franklin on?
No, I mean, for me, I think the only bit where I still have like a slight concern there is, I agree with having 3 running backs when we bring in Michael Burton in. I think that is the right number. My struggle is the lack of a change of pace. See, we might get that from a practice squad player, but so losing Jaleel McLaughlin in that room, but to bring him in, I would want to bring him and Estime along for the ride, because I don't want to lose Estime. I don't think he gets a practice squad, at which point we're weakening another room. And I think the numbers in them look right at the moment. Do you lose a tight end? because do you lose Nate Atkins because you've got Michael Burton as your fullback and then Adam Troutman's your blocker? But I think Nate Atkins and his versatility there in that room and what he can bring, it's just too much to at this point to rule him out. So you're not taking any out that O line. You need that cover across there. And then and on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's quite a nice split. If anything, again, you're looking going, ideally, I want another one in that safety room, and I want to. It's whether or not Drew Sanders and that level Bailey, that
Yeah.
I personally want that room as it is there, but
I'm quite happy with what we've got. That defense is full of quality up front. It's full of good rotational pieces. It's got good depth. It's got the injury cover. I think we've got that nailed on really. I said Sam Franklin Jr. will feel a bit hardly done by, and I think Damari Mathis is a bit of, hopefully you can trade him for a late round pick. I see him being a casualty there. The place you could gain if you really wanted that running back is tight end for me, but I'm happy with what we've gone with. I do agree a change of pace guy at running back would be good, but you can't lose Estemes in the second year.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's looking at the value of it, isn't it? And realistically, until you get an injury to one of those two, his involvement's going to be that third. Hopefully that third running back in the room's not going to get that many snaps this year. Hopefully we get a 1-2 punch that works. Maybe it's a bit goal line work and such like that. But again, you're looking at J.K. Dobbins and Harvey, and they can both do that as well. I would say so. I think at the moment, I think it's a good, strong 53. It's one that should be competing, as we say. But be interesting when we'll have to make note that come start season, week or two before, we look at the 53 when it's locked in, and see how far off we were. Keep this handy. Mark our homework.
And we will mark it out of 53. How many we get right? If we get anywhere over, say, 50, I think if we can get exceptional. I will buy you the first drink in London.
With those prices, yes, sir. I think on that bet though, if that's the rule, mate, it's got to be ones that are not forced by injury.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
It's just if the changes, and again, I'm not confident with that because I think there's too many of these, especially that O-line room. I'm just looking at it again. There's a couple of them that could drop out. The Forsyth's not in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a few. But again, we could be miles off like we were when we were trying to predict the draft and just nowhere near. We never know what Sean.
We nailed the draft. We discussed we would get Jardé Barron in the first.
Was that after the 3 running backs we got in the first as well?
Yeah, we were taking the running backs first. Yeah, no, it's been a good chat here. Obviously, I'll put our graphic up on our socials in a little bit once I've made it. Take a little bit of time to get that done, but I'll put it out there. People can grade us, see how we've done, how they think, if there's any changes that they feel that we should have made, or if there's any obvious errors that they think. It'd be good to get their opinions as always. But yeah, it's been another good one, and hopefully we'll get back into the swing of things. And if you're out there and you think you'd like to get involved with a bit of what we offer, a bit of Broncos Europe, you think that's a bit of you, please get in touch, because we're always looking for volunteers, especially in the run up to London. I know it's changed Kieron's life joining me on this podcast, and hopefully for the better.
I've got a few more greys popped up, mate, just round this side.
On that side, you can't tell. It's because I
wear an orange hat every time. Cover it up.
I know, but I just want to assure you that the plans for London are coming along. There's a lot of meetings going on behind the scenes, which is absolutely killing me with stress. But it's all good fun, and I can't wait to announce what we've got planned and some of the merch we've got designed. It's going to be exciting. Stick with us, follow us on socials, like everything you see, retweet everything you see. And just get involved in the chat. We've got a growing community, and we can't wait to meet you all in London and spread our love for Broncos country. So it's been enjoyable. Thank you once again for joining me, Kieron, and we will see you next Thursday.